But of your flowers, what are your specials?
There again, as they come along. Gladiolas are very interesting. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. I haven't got quite half of them. I plant some every week to extend them through. I'm trying some different colors this year, see how they come out.
What colors?
All different pinks. And if something happens, you have a bunch of nice ones. The next year, predominantly yellow, they've turned color. Then we had a gladiola side of the house, bright red. Because it was near the house, it would winter over, and the next year be a nice, pretty red one. And finally, one year we went to pick, and it was pure white, the same gladiola.
That's amazing. Huh. And gladiolas, what do you do with the bulbs in the winter?
They're a lot of work. I dig them in the fall, cut the top off, knock the roots off, and before I put them in storage, I dust them with sulfur powder. And if you don't, you're going to get thrips, which raises the devil with your glads. And then in the spring, I sit down and strip the casing off them, and before I plant them, I dust them again with sulfur powder. But I think the one that's the most laborsome is your dahlias.
Why?
You plant a single tube and you dig up a big clump like that and prepare them. I just put them in milk crates and put them down in the cellar. And then in the spring you have to sit down and subdivide that big clump, and you can see where the bulb is, or the plant's going to start. You have to have a portion of the old stem that grew the year before has to be attached to that eye, I was going to call it. And they're a lot of work. Then you have to drive stakes in the ground. That's what I did to hurt my back, as they grow up, to tie them. And if you want a larger flower and so on, you trim off a lot of the bottom growth and concentrate more on one or two flowers. And then down here I've got a whole bunch of iris that I moved from the house. And when you grow an iris, you should, about every 3 years, dig them up and subdivide it, because it makes new roots, and the old root won't produce. So I have to do that. I keep busy. I'm 93 now, and if you can believe it, I've been living with the same woman for 68 years. Now we've had a good life. 4 children, 15 grandchildren, 13 great-grandchildren. I think we still have 6 that are not married, so we've got a lot of potentials there. Our daughter, Marie, is a gardener, Albert's a gardener, and Susie is. Jake, you're doing okay. You hadn't started to bark or anything. No, and Chris has learned to be a gardener, and some of the small ones like to fool around with you. No, there'll be a lot of gardeners among them.
What's your favorite thing about gardening?
Relaxation, when you're feeling right. No, and anticipation of what you put in the ground, what's going to come out. I think it's just something you look forward to. And you look forward to getting the place ready, the soil ready, and then fertilizing, planting the seed, waiting for it to come up. I keep going through to see what's come up.
What did you plant here? What have you planted over?
Almost all these trees, and a good many of these trees came from Polly Hills. I'd go down and talk with Polly. She'd start in with a Latin name. I said, "Damn it, Polly, call it by an English name," which we would do. thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got a redwood tree down here, and I got that out in California when all the San Francisco Bridge over the little stand was selling redwood trees and about that high. And let's say paper towel, when you get through you got that casing, it's wrapped in that and send it here. The first year I kept it in the house. Then I got to thinking, well, I've got to put it outside. And then in the wintertime, I put a cage around it with oak leaves so it could breathe. Then all of a sudden, I stood there and I said, the darn thing, if it's going to live in New England, put it out, let it live. But I wish I'd put it as an individual to be a specimen tree. That's what it does down there. It does what it does in the West Coast. It sheds all its lower branches. So it's at this high. Yeah, it must be 50 feet tall. Other generations will see it. And one time the Chilmark school children wanted a tour of the place and all the plants and trees and so on, and they kept it up to see the redwood. No, that's the very last one you're going to see. And they all made up a notebook for me. The cutest thing. I was going to break the camera. And in the summertime, community center kids come over. They came over one time and I was taking them through the garden. I told them that ask all the questions they want. It's important to you. It may sound silly to somebody else, but it's important to you, so you ask it. And one little boy, what kind of plant is that, Mr. Fisher? That's a pepper plant. And his eyes popped out. Now show me the salt plant. Then I got one interesting story about a rose bush. We had a rose bush by the corner of the shed out there for years, and it wouldn't bloom. So one year I stood there and I pointed at it and I said, if you don't bloom next year, I'm going to kill you. And it's bloomed ever since. And it was true. It was going to come out the next year if it didn't bloom. Scared the hell out of it. In fact, we picked yesterday, whatever date that would be, the 7th of December, picked some roses, which is unheard of.